My name is Ethan, and 3 years ago, I experienced one of the most embarrassing nights of my life. My wife, Jessica, came from a wealthy family. Her parents owned a successful manufacturing company in Chicago. They lived in a huge house, drove luxury cars, and never missed a chance to remind everyone how successful they were. I wasn't poor, but I wasn't flashy either. I wore simple clothes, drove an old pickup truck, and rarely talked about money. That's exactly why Jessica's family thought I wasn't successful. One Friday evening, we were invited to dinner at her parents' house. Everything seemed normal at first. We sat around the dining table, eating steak and talking about business. Then Jessica's brother, Ryan, looked at me and smirked. "So, Ethan, still working that little consulting job?" Everyone laughed. I smiled politely. "Yeah, keeps me busy." Ryan reached into a folder beside his chair and pulled out a piece of paper. "What is this?" I asked. He slid it across the table. "A job application." The entire family burst into laughter. Her father nearly spilled his drink. "We figured we'd help you out," Ryan said. "You know, in case your career isn't going so well." Jessica laughed too. That hurt more than anything. I looked down at the application. The company name at the top was theirs. They had actually prepared a job application just to make fun of me. I folded the paper carefully and placed it in my pocket. No anger, no argument, no reaction. That seemed to disappoint them. Jessica's father leaned back in his chair. "You know, Ethan, if things get tough, we can always find you a position in the warehouse." More laughter. I simply smiled. "Thanks. I'll keep that in mind." A few minutes later, dinner ended. As Jessica and I walked to the car, she shook her head. "You should have taken the joke better." I stared at her. "A joke? Come on, Ethan. Don't be so sensitive." That was the moment something inside me changed. Because what none of them knew was that I had been quietly negotiating a business deal for months. And by the time they woke up the following Friday, their company would no longer belong to them. The next morning, I made a phone call that would completely change Jessica's family's future, and they had no idea what was coming. The following Monday, I arrived at my office before sunrise. Unlike what Jessica's family believed, my little consulting job wasn't my main source of income. For years, I had invested in struggling companies, helped them grow, and sold them for a profit. Most people never knew. I prefer it that way. 3 months earlier, one of my business partners approached me with an opportunity. Jessica's family company was in trouble. A lot of trouble. Their sales were falling. Debt was growing. Several banks were becoming nervous. Publicly, everything looked fine. Privately, it was falling apart. The family was so focused on appearances that they ignored the warning signs. When I learned the truth, I saw potential. The company still had good products and loyal customers. It just needed better leadership. For months, my investment group negotiated with major shareholders. Little by little, we bought shares. Nobody noticed, especially not Ryan. He was too busy showing off expensive watches online. Then Friday arrived. The final documents landed on my desk. I signed every page. Just like that, our group became the majority owner. Technically, I now controlled the company. I sat back in my chair and remembered the job application in my pocket. I couldn't help smiling. Around noon, the company's executive team received an urgent email announcing a mandatory board meeting. Jessica's father rushed there. Ryan rushed there. Neither of them knew why. At exactly 2 p.m., I walked into the boardroom. The room instantly became silent. Jessica's father looked confused. Ryan looked annoyed. "What are you doing here?" he asked. I placed a folder on the table. The lead attorney cleared his throat. "Effective immediately. The company has new majority ownership." The room froze. Ryan laughed nervously. "Okay, very funny." Then the attorney handed them the documents. I watched their faces change. Confusion, shock, disbelief, fear. Jessica's father looked at me. "You?" I nodded. "Me?" For the first time in years, nobody had anything to say. The man who supposedly needed a warehouse job now owned the company. And what happened next shocked them even more. They thought I would fire them immediately, but my next decision left the entire family speechless. The boardroom remained silent for several seconds. Jessica's father stared at the ownership documents as if they were written in another language. Ryan looked completely pale. Finally, he spoke. This can't be real. The attorney answered calmly. It is. Nobody laughed now. Nobody made jokes. Nobody asked if I needed a job application. The power in the room had completely shifted. Jessica's father slowly stood up. What happens now? I looked around the table. For years, these people had judged me based on appearances. They assumed an old truck meant failure. They assumed quiet confidence meant weakness. They assumed they knew everything. Now, they were learning how wrong they had been. I'll tell you what happens, I said. The company stays open. Everyone looks surprised. I believe in the employees. I believe in the products. I'm not here to destroy anything. Relief spread across several faces. Then I continued. But things are going to change. I announced a new leadership review. Every executive position would be evaluated based on performance. Not family connections. Not last names. Results. Ryan immediately objected. You can't do that. I looked directly at him. I already did. The meeting ended shortly afterward. That evening, I returned home. Jessica was waiting for me. She had already heard the news. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Then she finally asked, "Why didn't you tell me?" I thought about that question carefully. Because every time I tried to show who I was, your family was too busy judging who they thought I was. She looked down. For the first time, she seemed genuinely ashamed. Over the next few months, the company improved dramatically. Wasteful spending disappeared. Profits increased. Employees received better benefits. The business became stronger than ever. Ryan eventually lost his executive position because he couldn't meet performance standards. Jessica's father retired, and that job application, I framed it. Today it hangs on the wall of my office, not as a reminder of revenge, but as proof that people should never underestimate someone simply because they don't show off their success. Because sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one signing the papers that change everything. Before you go, tell me this, where are you watching this video from? Drop your city and state in the comments. I read as many comments as I can. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more unbelievable stories every day.